And a good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show. We really appreciate your company and thank you for being a part of tonight's show. Well, we've got a massive show lined up for you tonight, and we're hoping it's going to be fantastic for you all because there is a lot to get through. My name is Tonchi Prusak, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you tonight. It is episode 165 or episode 15 for season 2025. In fact, our seventh season altogether. And it wouldn't be possible without the absolute fantastic support of some of our wonderful sponsors, including our main sponsor this season, The Gordon, and also our main advertising sponsors, Curva Coaching, Just Turfing, Instant Turf. And tonight we also welcome back another one of our business advertising sponsors, Harcourts North Geelong. Folks, as I said, we've got a massive show lined up for you tonight. What have we got in store for you tonight? Well, on the weekend, there was a little bit of an unfortunate incident where one Barwon Soccer Club senior men's player had a rather freakish injury. Brasilio went down and wasn't able to feel his legs after copping a bump. Well, so it seems. And an ambulance was called. It arrived about 2.5 hours later. It could have been a lot worse than it was, but to find out how Aleo is and how what happened afterwards, we're going to be joined by the coach, the assistant coach, in fact, of the Barwon Soccer Club senior men's team, Gerard Whelan. Also last week, the St Joseph's College Geelong senior team took out the ACC, that's the Associated Catholic Colleges, Senior Division 1 title when they defeated Mazenod College from Melbourne 4-0 in the grand final. We'll be joined by the St. Joey's technical director of football, Josip Zilic, a little bit later on in the show. So do stay tuned. Heaps to come through, including our news desk, of course, which is straight after this ad break by our major sponsor, The Gordon, and also our jingle, the news desk. So we'll be back very, very shortly.
Your future is in your hands. There is a whole world waiting for you, and your choices determine how you will impact it. At The Gordon, we recognise this. That's why we champion hands-on learning. Get your hands dirty. Grab what's in front of you. Learn by doing. Turn your passion, your ideas, and mould them into your creations. You'll be supported the entire way. You'll grow your skills in small classes, guided by teachers who are industry experts. You'll learn in state-of-the-art facilities or out in a real-world workplace setting. Your hands-on experience will increase your understanding and put you ahead of your university peers. You'll graduate work-ready and you'll graduate sooner, with a huge range of qualifications to choose from and support services to enable your success. Now is the time to continue your learning journey. At The Gordon, your future is in your hands.
We're back at the news desk. Folks, is it glitching from your end? Do pop it in the comments section. I seem to be having some sort of problem from my end, but I'm not sure if it's indicative from elsewhere. But we'll continue nonetheless, and let's talk about this week's results, or this weekend's results. We'll start off with the Victorian Premier League 2, the men's competition. In round 20 action, North Geelong Warriors came up against Altona City at Alco Park, and came away with a very, very important 4-2 win to maintain top spot on the competition standings. Lockie McGrath, Sonny Bremer, George Ellis, and a second-half goal by Angus Chapman clinched the points for the Warriors. The Warriors now have opened up a 2-point gap over Eltham Redbacks and a further 1 point over Brunswick Juventus, who does have a game in hand, but they've got a slightly inferior goal difference to the Warriors. But Every point is important at this stage of proceedings with about 6 games to go in the VPL2 division. At the other end of the competition standings, Geelong was defeated by Box Hill United 1-2 at Stead Park on Saturday night. And Shusuke Kirihara, the new Japanese import player, he scored on debut for Geelong, but it wasn't enough as the Lions went down. It's quite dangerous now for the Lions. They are now in third last position with Whittlesea United, Boroondara Eagles, and Pascoe Vale at the bottom. 3 points just separate those 4 teams. Very, very crucial that Geelong starts winning some games in the next few weeks. Turning our attention quickly to the Victorian Premier League women's competition on the weekend, and yesterday up at Myers Reserve, Geelong Galaxy unfortunately ended up losing 3-0. Not a good result for Galaxy. Focusing on this weekend's games, we've got in the Victorian Premier League 2 men's competition, round 21, both the Geelong teams are away. Now, this is an absolute corker of a game. Top of the table clash, North Geelong Warriors taking on Eltham Redbacks, who were positioned in second spot. And that game at Eltham North Reserve this Saturday night at 5 p.m. Do or die. Really, really is important. Should the Eltham Redbacks win, they will overtake the Warriors. Should the Warriors win, they'll open up a 5-point gap over Eltham Redbacks. If they both draw, well, you know what? Brunswick Juventus then in third spot has that opportunity to jump over both of those into top spot. An important game, this one, for the Warriors. Just as important as the game for the Warriors is this game for Geelong Soccer Club. They're currently in 11th position. They've got a tough one coming up against Essendon Royals, who are in 5th position at Cross Keys Reserve this Saturday night. A must-win game because I think Boroondara Eagles taking on the bottom spot, Pascoe Vale, and Boroondara have been in very, very good form of late. In VPLW competition, round 15 sees Geelong Galaxy travel to top side Avondale, and Avondale FC has not dropped a point all season. Very tough game at Avenger Park, 3 p.m. kickoff there for Geelong Galaxy. Let's turn our attention now to the State League competition. And in State League 1, it was a 0-0 draw for Corio. Big shout out to all of our Corio supporters who regularly tune in every week. And we're talking about Santino, Veshko, who else from Corio tunes in on a regular basis. Pop that down in the comment section, the chat section, so we know exactly who we've got coming, who we've always got on the show tuning in. But 0-0 draw against lowly Brimbank Stallions, not the result we wanted, unfortunately. And moving on to State League 2, a great result by Geelong Rangers. Nick Cosdra goal in the second half allowed the Rangers to take all 3 points against bottom side Dallas City. A crucial win that was. Surf Coast travelled to to Ballarat for State League 3 action. It was round 13 against the Sebastopol Vikings. Christian Mann scoring for the second consecutive week, and Anthony Thomas also scoring 2-0 win to Surf Coast over the Vikings, and maintains their 6-point gap over third placed over the third place team in State League 3. On to State 4. Deakin Ducks lost to Barnstone Worth United 2-1 despite Sam White giving the Ducks an early lead. Lara United did Bell Park a massive favour when they held the league leaders, Westside Strikers, to 2-2. Tristan McGrath and Woomjock Jock scoring for Lara. And that meant that Bell Park are now like 3 points behind. They're in 4th position, but they've got a game in hand against Melbourne City and a very winnable game at hand. So Bell Park, should they win that game in hand against Melbourne City, they will jump to top spot. Now, Barwon came up against Melbourne City. That is, in fact, 2-2. That should be 2-2, not 1-0. And this game was abandoned, with about 15 or so minutes to go, maybe less. And we'll find out the reasons behind all of that a little bit later on when we speak to our special guest tonight, the Barwon assistant coach, Gerard Whelan. and he'll give us the lowdown on that. That was a 2-2 scoreline before the game was abandoned late in that match. Bell Park came up against West Point, the bottom side, and a 2-0 win courtesy of a brace by Nick Nugent allowed Bell Park to stay within striking distance of the leaders there in Victorian State League Division 4, and they have a really good chance of, if we can just have a look at the ladder now, they're in fourth position at the moment, as I said. In fact, 2 points behind Melton Phoenix, who are on top. Balmoral, who have also jumped into second spot. Westside Strikers now in third spot with 29 points. But Bell Park, they're on 28 points and they've got a game in hand. State League 5, Ocean Grove hosted Gisborne and managed a 3-all draw there. Matthew Bell, Harrison Dodds and Lucas Jester scoring. Let's take a look now at the fixtures for this weekend's round 14. Some big games coming up. Corio in 10th travels to 5th placed Westgate. Always a tough fixture, this one. Ardea Reserve at 6 p.m. on Saturday night. State League 2 action sees the Rangers up against Williamstown. Rangers in 10th position. They've moved up 2 notches, 2 spots on the competition standing. So they'll be really keen to continue this very good form of late. And they come up against 7th place Williamstown at Myers Reserve. Kick-off at 3 p.m. Not too many games featuring local sides this Saturday afternoon. So do get yourself out to Myers Reserve and watch the Rangers in action against Williamstown. Surf Coast once again hit the road. This time they're at 9th placed Plenty Valley Lions. The RGC Cook Recreational Reserve is the venue for Saturday's big match, and they do need to keep on accruing points if they want to maintain that 6-point gap between themselves and the third place team in State League 3, which just so happens to be Bundoora United. So they're 6 points behind Surf Coast. Now in State League 4, starting Friday night, we've got a big local derby. Lara United in 10th spot taking on Bell Park. Must-win game for Bell Park. And Lara United, if they want to steer clear of that relegation zone, they will need to start collecting points, and especially at home. This is a big game, 8:30 p.m. this Friday night at Lara Recreation Reserve. Rug up, get yourself down there. Should be an absolute fantastic game, and I'm tipping this is going to attract a big, big crowd. One of the other Saturday games, which features a local side here in Geelong, is Deakin Ducks, and they'll be taking on Balmoral FC. Tough game, 8th versus 2nd at the Warm Ponds campus of Deakin University. Kickoff there is 3 p.m. Point Cook hosts Barwon at Saltwater Reserve. It's 6th versus 9th, and Barwon also need points to get away from the relegation zone. And last but not least, in State League 5 West, Ocean Grove, which are currently in 3rd position, they take on ETA Buffalo Club at the Delahaye Reserve. Now, in Women's State League competition, there were no games played this weekend because of the mid-season break, but all the action resumes next weekend, and we will see North Geelong Warriors currently in 5th, taking on 2nd place Clifton Hill at Quarries Park on Sunday, kicking off at 3 p.m. Rightio, folks, we're going to take a time out from our news desk, and after this, we're going to return with the first of our guests for tonight, the assistant coach of the Barwon Soccer Club senior men's team, Gerard Whelan. He'll be joining us after this break. Folks, don't go away. You're tuning in to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Just Turfing Instant Turf is a local, family-owned and operated company which guarantees top-quality products and service. Whether you need turf for a small front garden or a large landscaping project, Just Turfing Instant Turf are the turf installer experts you can trust. They supply and install for most major landscapers in Melbourne and Geelong, with a wide range of premium instant turf and a full suite of turf care products. Chloe and the team at Just Turfing are sure to have all your turf needs covered. Their Melbourne, Geelong and Victorian regional distribution means they can supply your area with fresh cut turf installed the same day, hassle-free. Turf options that are available include Eureka Kikuyu, Santa Ana, Tiff Tuff, Sir Walter Buffalo and Sir Grange. For more information, contact either Chloe on 0431 571 558 or Josh on 0457 174 111. Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Well, on the weekend in the Men's State League 4 competition, the game between Barwon Soccer Club and Melbourne City, it was one of those things that happens that you don't like to see happen. Was the game was stopped and eventually called off due to a player injury, and unfortunately that player was Barwon's Aleo Brasilio, who went down late in the game and had some back issues, and there was all sorts of concerns for the player involved. But there was lots of drama later on afterwards, as well, as the game was halted and the players, the coaches, the spectators all waited for an ambulance to arrive. Exactly what happened and the latest on how Aleo Brasilio has pulled up after that. We're joined by the Barwon Soccer Club's men's assistant coach, Jared Whelan. Jared, welcome to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Tonchi. It's always good to speak to you, and you do a good job for the region, and we all appreciate that.
Well,
happy to be here.
Thanks very much, but I guess not on the right circumstances, so to speak. We always love having all of our clubs on board, but there was a rather unfortunate incident that happened in the men's seniors game between Barwon and Melbourne City late in the game, when the game was actually called off at 2-2. Tell us what happened there.
Look, it's just a passage of play as the game's evolving. We've played the ball forward down the left-hand side, and our player Aleo Basilio, he was able to take the ball, and he tried to spin his defender to get in behind him, and in doing that, he's twisted his back, and there was ever slight contact. The defender's trying to win the ball, obviously, so there was no malice and no foul, no bad tackle or anything like that. And from the footage that I've seen, and it looks like as Aleo's turned, his explanation to me when I went onto the ground was his studs got caught in the ground, and he wasn't able to freely turn. So I'm thinking maybe that's where his back went into a bit of spasm, and then when the defender quite legally and rightfully is entitled to challenge for the ball.
Yep.
There's been a coming together of the players. As I said, no foul, nothing untoward. And that may have in some way contributed to Aleo back going into spasm, which rendered him unable to continue the game. And you can, as you saw from the video clip, immediately after that, he's unable to walk and has fallen to the ground. The play continued for a little while. Obviously, the referee nothing he did wrong, and as the play is allowed to continue, and until we can assess what's happened to the player. Eventually, the play was stopped and called us onto the park to go and assess Aleo, see how he was. And it wasn't until I got there to see him, and he was in quite a lot of discomfort, clearly to see. And as I said, he was telling me when we were asking him what's happened, he said he can't, his back was locked. He said he had no feeling or movement in his left leg.
And that's always a concern. That's when you start to think, could it be a spinal injury? Could it be whatever? Even though we saw that footage there, and I might even play that footage again, you can actually see that there was actually, it's very harmless at the end of the day. There's a bit of a collision there, bit of an impact, but then he's gone down, and I guess and he was more of a better, closer up version, the zoom version. He spun around, bit of a knock there, nothing untoward, and then bang.
Yeah, and that's, in football, there is contact, and there is inadvertent contact, which the defender 100% within his rights to compete and contest for the ball. He's trying to do his job. Aleo, as the attacker, he's trying to spin in behind and take the defender out of the game. And unfortunately, when they've collided, as I said, that may have contributed to Aleo's back going into spasm, and he's been unable to continue the game.
Now, more concerning was what happened afterwards. So the game's been abandoned. It's been stopped. It's been abandoned. You got onto the phone straight away to the ambulance immediately afterwards. And
Yeah,
there were some positives and negatives that eventually happened. But tell us about, yeah, what happened within the situation with the ambulances
yeah. Look, I know it was 7 o'clock when I phoned the ambulance,
on a
and
Saturday night. Yeah.
yeah, so I called triple. I had my phone with me, and the reason I had my phone, ordinarily people, coaches wouldn't have their phones, but I had that because I was doing the video recording, so I had that to ensure that the camera was going. Yeah, so I was able to. Thankfully, that I had that with me at the time, and when he told me he couldn't move his leg and his back was sore and he couldn't move, I had concerns. Yeah, he could be seriously injured, so I rang the ambulance straight away. Um, Unfortunately, well, I've spoken to the operator who go through a series of like pro forma questions,
Yeah.
which sometimes, and I'm just being honest here. This is just my opinion. It's very frustrating. You're trying to convey as succinctly and accurately to the operator what's happened, and they go through a long list of pro forma questions, and like one in particular, is there internal bleeding? I'm like, mate, I've just told you what's happened. I've described the incident, how I saw it, and what I've been told from Maleo. So yeah, long story short, then he says to me I was talking to Aleo, conveying to him, look, I'm on the phone to the ambulance. You're going to be okay. Just trying to reassure him.
Has he
And
gone into shock, or has he started to start to feel kind of that initial shock?
yeah, I think he was. I believe he was, and the reason I say that, you could just see he was on the ground and he was sort of clearly in discomfort and sort of had not shaking badly, but you could just see he's in a lot of pain. And whether he's gone into shock, I'm just assuming that, and that's why I thought, well, I just need to reassure him. We're looking after him. We're doing what we can to get medical help for him, and as luck would have it, at the time there was a doctor who plays for us. He was at the game watching, and there's also a gastrosurgeon whose son, Will Walker, plays with us in the senior team. So they were both at the match.
Mm.
And when I came over to tell them, to tell Dale, I'm calling the ambulance, this is what's happened, they both came on and offered their assistance and their help as medical professionals, which was really fortunate for us that we had people there with a lot more medical expertise and knowledge than I have. I've obviously got basic first aid
Yeah.
understanding, but not to the extent of an injury with someone's back, or as you say, it could be a spinal injury. Who knows what the diagnosis is? So yeah, it was good to have them there. And yeah, as you say, the length of time, and the ambulance operator, first call I made, said someone will call you within an hour.
Gosh,
And
within
I,
an hour.
I questioned that, and I said, mate, I'm telling you, there's a guy here who's in a real bad way. I don't know the full extent of his injuries, but so you're telling me that no one's going to be here for an hour? Or he said, no, someone will call you back within an hour, and then the ambulance hasn't been dispatched, so don't tell the patient that. And I started to think that's not great. Cold night, he's lying on the ground, cold, wet ground. And I'm thinking for him, like, let's just get him warm. Let's just try and comfort him. And in between the ambulance calling me and speaking to the first operator, the doctor and the neurosurgeon actually rang ahead to the Geelong hospital
Hmm.
to pre-warn them and give them an update as to what's happened, just to advise them that there would be someone coming in to be treated. So that was very fortunate and good of Tim to do that, just to put them in the picture. But yeah, they made a decision based on their medical expertise and their knowledge and understanding of what's happened. They decided to what they call log roll him onto the stretcher to take him off the ground, to get him off the wet, cold
Yep.
ground.
Yep.
So we then did that, took him into the clubhouse, and they shut the doors, put the fire on, and just to try and comfort Aleo and keep him warm. And I think it was about nearly maybe 2.5 hours in total from the start to the finish when the ambos were actually able to turn out. And then yeah, they came, treated him, and took him off to hospital. Um, My
Now, can you
understanding,
imagine? Sorry to cut you there, Jared, but
yeah,
imagine, and this is something that happens, week in, week out. There's always injuries. There's always, sometimes there could be neck injuries, could be back injuries, could be just you don't know. So you're obviously you're told to keep the player there on the ground, and in the middle of winter, it's freezing cold. They go into shock. There's all these things that can happen, and luckily, you had two doctors present, but many times a lot of clubs don't even have probably designated first aiders, particularly the smaller clubs. And how many times I've seen even in junior soccer, there is no stretcher there because, ground officials usually say, "Oh, we won't need it. It'll be okay. They're only
yeah,
kids or this." But and I think the point of the story is you always need to be ready because in this day and age, and we're not going to have a go at the health system, we're not going to have a go at anything. We're simply just going to say, clubs, you need to be prepared for the absolute worst case scenario and have contingencies in place. And I guess that's the moral of the story to come out of this, isn't it?
of course, of course. And like you say, you haven't got a crystal ball to look into, and I guess it's a good point that you make where, and it's not a criticism of anyone, but can we, and I say we as a generalised term, speaking on behalf of Barwon in particular, but can we be prepared? Can we have a contingency in place? Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah,
And you sort of probably ticked a box there thinking, and I know like through the job that I did prior to retirement, if you're dealing with victims or someone's injured, sometimes you just reassurance of people that they're going to be okay, that you're getting medical attention for them. And that's, I know Aleo quite often he'd put his hand out and say, thank you, really
yeah,
humble and appreciative and grateful, not just to me, but to the doctors and to everyone else who came and offered their assistance. And even in the clubhouse, and, whilst he was waiting for the ambulance, he's just, unfortunately for him, lying on the stretcher, he wasn't able to get up. He was asking, I can have something to eat. And, you've got to tell him you can just have water. And I think one of the doctors, and he had a couple of Panadol in his pocket. He said, lucky you had them." He said, "Mate, I always carry them. Just you never know when you're going to need something like that."
there
So
you go. Yeah, there you
yeah,
go. Exactly
gave him a
that.
couple of Panadol with some water, and obviously telling him, "Mate, you can only have some water. So let's just wait and see what the doctors say, and then you'll be assessed, and then we'll take it from there."
Yeah. Now, like,
Hi, I'm Joe Gergich,
And I'm Helena Fantella.
and welcome to our family here at Harcourts.
From there.
yeah.
But
Now,
yeah,
late on Saturday night, Dale Harris, the coach, Bowen there, he put up a post. Actually, it was on the Geelong Region Soccer News Facebook page, the Saturday
oh, yeah.
scoreboard. So thank you for him doing this. And he gave a bit of a notice as to what had happened. And he actually says, well, I'd like to thank Dr. Walker, Dr. Mayovell, and yourself, obviously, Jerry, for taking special care of LA. But he also said a big thank you to the Melbourne City coach, Pablo, and the Melbourne City Football Club. And I think it's almost like a done and dusted. When something like this happens, the last thing you want anyone to happen is to get injured. And it
Of
really
course.
is a credit to, I guess, the other club, in this case, Melbourne City, for everything that they went out, and to Pablo, the coach there as well. But as we said, it's just so important to be prepared. And one thing that we were talking off air is, like, one thing that you're going to suggest to your club is to have those extra blankets, those thermal blankets, because
Yeah,
you just don't know. And I mean, even kids sitting, if it's a cold night, and their kids or young ladies or young boys sitting on the bench and they're absolutely freezing. And you know, I know my little kid, he's 13-year-old, he's skinny as a stick, and when it's a cold weather, he turns blue. And
Yeah,
just having thermal blankets or something like that for the kids in anyway, you know, a small investment can be such a big thing.
that's right. I agree wholeheartedly. And yeah, moving forward, I guess from Barwon's point of view, that's something that I guess we'll discuss. And it's not a criticism of Barwon, but I
Mm.
don't know if we do actually have any things like that. So it may be something that we can invest in for the future. And
Yeah.
the old adage, better to have it and not need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if any other club is watching this and thinking, geez, who knows, you know, this could happen to us. Here's an opportunity to revisit what you have as far as first aid kit. Do you
Yeah,
have
of course.
Panadols? Do you have thermal blankets? Do you have any of those kind of things that you may or may not need? What's your stretcher like? Is your stretcher in good condition? So all of those things and contingency plans. Who's your designated first aid person? Is there a doctor in the club? Like this is a good time to maybe do a stock take. It's the end of the financial year.
Yeah.
We do financial stock take, but now's the time to do a stock take. And you know, how many doctors in the club, you know, as parents or players and what you're not, and to have them on call, to have them on notice, you know, whether it's the women's fixture, senior men's fixture, all of those things. So, yeah, like it's, how is, by the way, how is Aleo? What's the
Yeah,
latest on him?
I spoke to actually had communication with Dale this morning, and he is actually staying with Dale at the moment, which is good of Dale and his wife to offer that to him. And when he came home from the hospital, his prognosis was it was just really severe back spasms.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as I'm aware, there's no long-lasting or long-term serious injury, but severe spasms, and he's on heavy sedated on painkillers.
Yep.
Um, when he came home, he had to walk with the aid of a stick, so he
Yep.
wasn't able to walk properly at this point in
Yep.
time. How long that's going to take to heal and recover, I'm not sure. It's just a matter of it's just a waiting game, I guess, to see the medication kicks in, does its thing, and it may be a week, 2 weeks of just rest and easing back into it, as opposed to going straight back out training.
Yeah.
I would be very, very surprised if he were even able to train this week, and that's unfortunate for him because he just wants to play. And I remember an example of Aleo and what he's about. The week before, he got a hamstring injury. It was a I went on to treat him and used the spray, and he said, "Oh, no." I said to Dale, "Is indicating he needs to come off."
Yep.
And he said, "No, no, no substitute, no substitute. I play, I play."
Yeah.
And I said, "Mate, you can't even run. You can't play." I said, "For 10 or 15 minutes of playing, you might be injured for 4 weeks after this."
Yeah.
And he said to me, "I link up. I take the ball. I link up. Other people get involved. I can
Mm.
hold up and link up."
Yeah.
That's indicative of him and how he is wanting to play and
Yeah.
wanting to do his bit
Yeah.
for Barwon.
Yeah.
But we spoke to him after and said, "Your health and safety is more important than anything, mate. Barwon will still be here, but let's just make sure your health and safety is paramount."
Yeah.
And as you said before, Tonsi, you don't know such an innocuous football contact. You
Yeah.
just don't know. And he actually said to me his studs got caught in the ground as he tried to turn
Yeah.
and roll the defender. That may have been the catalyst for his back going into spasm as he's turning. Oh, that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
Something like that, you could bend down to get something out the cupboard, twist your back the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. It's a freakish injury, and we saw, like I said, we saw the clips, and there was absolutely nothing
No, of
untoward.
course,
But
100%.
look, we talked about positives, and we mentioned that there were two doctors on hand. We mentioned that you
Yeah,
had a phone in your pocket where normally you wouldn't have it. But they weren't the positives. The positives were Barn was 2-0 down, and then
yeah.
Joseph Prpic scored the first goal, and then lo and behold, Aleo actually scored the equaliser before he got injured. So I guess that's the positive, that the score, and it'll probably remain 2-2, which and there's
I
the
think the
results
game's
there.
been called. Yeah, I think the referee made the decision. Um, I'm only going on the VO, as I said, the time
Yeah,
that I saw on the VO compared with the time when the goal was recorded on the FFE site. And it may have been I don't know the time, to be honest, Tonchi. It may be
yep,
75 minutes or a percentage of the game has to be played before you can call a result. So, yeah, like at the end of the day, 2-2, the positive is we were 2-0 down. We came back to 2 each. We didn't get beat. We're building and making a little bit of progress as a club, and we'll continue to do that till the end of the year.
Yeah, and as a
Yeah,
final note, we're going to have to wind it down,
yeah,
unfortunately. But as a final note, you must be pretty happy with the boys' performance in recent weeks. They jumped up now to fourth last on the ladder, above of Lara United, above Melbourne City and West Point on the bottom. So away from that dreaded relegation zone as we stand. But there's obviously still another 10 games, 11
yeah, of
games to go
course.
before the season.
Of course, and like as you said, the work ethic, the preparedness to graft and help each other, that's really evident at the moment. And sometimes, we've played football, both of us, and sometimes you just need a little bit of luck on your side as well. And who knows where the final table will see us. But at the end of the day, Aleo's not fit and healthy, I shouldn't say, but
Yep.
he's in a better position than when we first thought, which is a positive, and we wish him all the best. And I just want to say, in finishing, the sportsmanship and the Melbourne City players, they were actually speaking to him in his native tongue in Argentinian.
Yep.
And they were, he was smiling and laughing and acknowledging. I couldn't tell you what they said, but from all accounts, they were really good sports about it. And they're in a dogfight, the same as us. They're scrapping for every point they can get.
Yep.
But no one mentioned anything about that. No one complained about the game being stopped. Of course, both teams could have went on to win the game with the time left, but their priority and main focus was the welfare of Vallejo, which is full credit to Melbourne City. And hopefully some of this message gets out to them and shows our appreciation to them and to Pablo and his playing group. They were first class.
Yeah, awesome. On that absolutely positive note, hopefully, what certainly sounds like that all is well with Aleo, and we certainly wish him a very, very speedy recovery, and hopefully he can bang in those goals as soon as possible. And to yourself, Gerard, thanks for coming on and giving us a really good perspective and a very, very good message to all clubs as well. So we thank you for that, and
Thanks,
wish you
Tonchi.
and everyone at Barwon all the best.
All the best, Tonchi. Speak to you soon, mate. Thank you.
Good on you. There was Gerard Whelan, and a very, very important message for all football clubs, not just in the Geelong region, but everywhere, and regardless of what level you play at. We're going to take a very short break, folks, and when we return, we're going to continue with tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show, proudly brought to you by our major sponsor, The Gordon.
The world is yours. So work hard, and you can have whatever it is you want.
And welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. And our next guest, well, he's very, very well known around football circles here in Geelong, and he was a part of the St Joseph's College School's ACC Division 1 championship winning team as the technical director there at St Joseph's College last week in their win against Mazenod in the grand final. And joining us to tell us all about that triumph is Josip Zilic. Josip, good evening and welcome to the Geelong Region Soccer Show.
Oh, good evening, Tonchi. Thanks for having me on again. It's been a little while since we've last caught up on the program, and hopefully everyone in the football world is doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is a return of sorts, and we always love having you on the show. But mate, I think the last time we actually spoke to you, it was about St Joseph's College and the triumph that they were having last year. That same cohort now has moved into the senior team and a senior school, I guess. And they last week won the Division 1 grand final, apparently 12 years in the making. Tell us a bit more about that, mate.
Yeah, look, you're right. Last year, the lads majority of the squad were Year 11 students. We only had a couple of Year 12 students, but this year those same Year 11 students carried through into being Year 12 students. We topped them up with some other Year 11s from last year's Year 10 squad. And we've gone a couple of steps better. Last year we were premiers, and gut-wrenching, we went out on penalties in the semi-finals to St. Bernard's, who were the eventual winner in 24.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, the guys were just unbelievable all year long. To go through the season with 45 goals, only conceded 11 in 5 goals or more. In 5 goals, we scored 5 goals or more. In 5 games, sorry, we scored 5 goals or more. I'll spit that out eventually. And we had 3 clean sheets in that process as well. We only conceded 11 goals. And to comprehensively come out 4-0 winners in the grand final against Mazenot, who were a stubborn opponent on the day, and all credit to them. They really played a highly, highly tactical game, trying to overcome our prowess in front of goal as well as our dominance in the middle of the park. But the guys held firm and with a 4-0 win in the grand final, which was fantastic. And as you said, a 12-year journey in the making. Since the last time the college had achieved the Division 1 title was 2013. What's really important to note about this cohort is this cohort, when they were in Year 9, they won the ACC Div 1. When they were in Year 10, they won the ACC Div 1. And now as seniors, won the ACC Div 1. So credit to them, especially the players, because with that sort of mindset and attitude towards the game and the school, the actions were the result, and the actions came out in a grand final win.
Yeah, now we can see the post-match presentation happening there. This was all done at David Barrows Stadium, home of Bulleen Lions, actually.
Yeah.
Mate, a lot of these kids play NPL football, so there's a lot of football that happens with these kids, and some of them are very, very talented, playing at clubs across the region and in Melbourne as well. But let's just to put this into perspective. A lot of the schools in Melbourne, they really, really take these seriously, don't they? They have kids playing from Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, Western United, and what you're not. But they take it really, really seriously, and they invest a lot in their coaching. The facilities are unbelievable in some cases. So for a little school, so to speak, from Geelong to do so well like this, it's quite an incredible story.
Yeah, it is. And it needs to be taken into that sort of context, Tonch. I've been in the game around the region for a long time now, and coached and been technical director at that NPL level as well. For the entire season, you feel like you're in an NPL mini season of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
You come across some coaches like. I come across an old mate of mine who was also once technical director at North Geelong, Igor Serbanovsky.
Oh,
and
yes.
He's the lead coach at St. Bernard's, right?
Yep.
So we're dealing with the coach UEFA, AFC A licensed, and some of the other personnel like Vaughan Coveney and others that are involved in the ACC Championship. You're dealing with high caliber coaches who are trying to get the best out of the players and teach them a way of football that maybe they're not doing at their clubland. In clubland, coaches and clubs have their own prerogative, and credit to them because some of those clubs are doing fantastically well. But look, we approached this season in the mindset of the first question was, what do you want to achieve, lads? Look, it's in your hands. If you want to treat this as a come together and a social aspect and have a bit of fun with the PE sort of aspect, it can be taken that way. But to their credit, all 22 players that are involved in the larger squad, they all said, no, we want to take this seriously, Zilla. We want to get the most out of ourselves and try and achieve a great result for themselves and the school. And that's exactly how we went about it. We treated it professionally. Everyone responded accordingly into that mindset. Whether they played 1 minute, 0 minutes, or all minutes, every single person involved bought into the entire program.
Mm-hmm.
And having someone like Tom Trupkovic by my side to lead these young men, because he's the school football lead, and I take care of the actual tactical leads. Everyone just bought in. Everyone was on the same page. The most heartwarming aspect about this, out of everything, is that not one player, not one person involved come to me and said, I've played, marginal minutes or 0 minutes.
Yep.
When are you going to play me? Everyone just accepts. The results is what the team, the cohort selected. So the results is what we fought for and we got.
So it's a real kind of collective on the park, off the park, and it really embodied the college's motto, the college's mantra, I guess. But how was the preparation? So was there extra training during lunchtime, after school, or was that left to the clubs to coach the kids and train the kids? How did they come about? As a unit. So what was the methodology in approaching the actual ACC competition?
We know that term 2 is competition time, and we don't have any time, if any time, to do preparation work. Everything's done in term 1. So in term 1, we come together. We have training sessions once a week as a collective, and through that, we identify the style of game we want to play.
And was that done during school or after school?
During school. Yeah. So instead of them doing PE, they'll do their session with Tom and I.
Yep.
And that's where we identify our strengths. Where we want the ball to be played, how we want it to be played, who are our key players for certain aspects of the game, set pieces, from corners and free kicks, and the responsible people to be there, and also working on our penalty takers. So we approach it just as we would in the season. Who are the key players in our side, and we build around that, and that style of play formed from there. People look at our statistics and go, "Gee, you scored a swag of goals," but I can tell you that the first 2 or 3 weeks we just spent nailing the defensive aspects, having some strong candidates in that area, led by the skipper Paddy Heffernan. When you've got someone like that who's on the fringe of being taken seriously as a senior player at North Geelong, you know that if he's there leading from that line up, from there upwards up the park, it's going to be taken in that way, where players are aspirational, ambitious, and have that commitment and desire to work as one, with a lot of respect. And a lot of those attributes we lean off the LFC International Academy, which is linked with the college, and Tom and I work in that space as well. And look, Liverpool's mottos are ambition, commitment, dignity, unity. So that sort of resonates with the words I just mentioned before. So
yeah. And speaking of the LFC Academy as well, and your own role, you were appointed technical director of the football program there at St Joey's last year. It's definitely not something that's success overnight. It's been something that's been kind of happening in the background. The planning, as you said, is quite meticulous in term 1 for this team, but obviously there's been a lot of planning since day dot when you started last year, hasn't there?
Yeah. When I met with the school about taking on the role, one of my first questions was, is this to be considered as a fun aspect and play, or is it going to be something that the school wants to build on in order to, one, keep students at the school involved with the sport and attribute that to their education pathway as well? Or is it going to be something a bit bigger and brighter than that? So the school is building on that. At the moment, with year 9, 10 and seniors involved in ACC competitions, and that's a fantastic platform. I know that the school is negotiating its way through introducing year 7 and 8 into a local Geelong-based competition with Geelong-based colleges.
Right.
So it's now starting to, some of the feedback we provide, Tom and I provide the school in terms of the program, is taken on board and being taken seriously. The other aspect is the equipment and facilities. There's been a great deal of investment in that area. Anyone driving past Zampaddy Oval will see that the goals are set up there now. Yep. Full-size goals. So thanks to Lockie Doak, the head of performance there in PE, through his advocacy, the school's been able to agree to get that. And we use Zampaddy Oval, which is a fantastic surface to train and play on. Nice big flat deck. And we can move the goals around how we see fit, because they're on wheels, and it just helps with ground maintenance and to the college maintenance staff. Thank you to them, because they've been supportive of this from day dot too.
And that was going to be my next question, the level of support from the college itself. Now, we know St. Joseph's College is well renowned as an AFL producing school institution, very, very famous in that regard. It's obviously got such a history, rich history. But obviously, with the introduction of the Liverpool Football Academy, your role as a junior technical director or as such, and the emphasis it seems to be putting on the squads and the performance side of things, seems to me that the college is really starting to support soccer, football in a major way, and that's great to see. Is that a fair assumption, would you say?
Yeah, you're right on the money there, Tunch. The school, like I said, 2 years ago, we kicked off conversation about where we want to take this. It wasn't just about having a kickabout and a fun time at PE. The fun comes with it. The fun comes as a result of trying to get better out of your skills or trying to improve yourself, because then you start to enjoy things, because you set yourself some goals, some objectives, and strive towards that. And the school's motto is strive for the highest. So that's coming out of the lads. Yeah, in the year 10 results, people can look at that and go, well, they look a bit like a mixed bag, but they could say that about last year too. And those same year 11 players, those previous year 10 players who were the 11 players this year, were significant contributors to our scores and our results. I mean, people like Carl Leban scoring 9 goals in that process of the school season is testament to that. Dominic Postorino, another year 11 player that had a significant contribution to the team's performance. So it's not just about the year 12 players. The year 11 players come in and they learn from the previous year what's expected and the way we want to play. People can say we use that as a bit of a testing ground. I'm telling you 100%, we use it as a testing ground so we can work out what's going to happen in the senior year.
Wow, fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic to hear and to see what is happening there. It's unbelievable. Now, you mentioned Tom Trupkovic, a former president at North Geelong Warriors, as was the case with you, that he was your right hand man. But what about some of the other teachers and staff, I guess, there at St. Joseph's? Who are some of the ones that really supported the soccer program at St. Joey's this year?
Oh, look, it starts from the younger groups with Sam Corella and Tom's son Marcus is involved in coaching in there. It becomes a little bit of a family network there when you hear about the prospective year 9s and the results they're going through. It starts to sort of whet your appetite for what could come the following year. Paul Hood, commonly referred to as Hoodie, is big in the AFL circus in developing AFL players, but he leans in and it lends his support and gets involved with the LFC Academy stuff as well. Lockie Doak, the head of PE, and Connor Guinea, the head of performance. We've got access to St. Joey's recently developed high performance gym areas.
Yes.
So all these little bits start coming together, and you can see how the bigger picture can start to build from that. And this goes without saying to the principal, Tony Patch. Without Patchy's support, none of this would happen. So it all starts from the top.
Yeah, it does indeed, absolutely. Well, the proof is in certainly the pudding as far as the level of support right from the top all the way to throughout down to the coaching ranks, and certainly the players themselves, the students themselves. They not only have embodied all those values, but they've certainly translated that into high performance on the park. So once again, congratulations to you and to everyone there involved at St. Joseph's College. It's the Associated Catholic Colleges, and to take first place in the Division 1 Seniors competition after 12 years is no mean feat. So once again, congratulations, Josip.
Thanks, Tonchi, and we're looking forward to our invitation from the All Schools competition later in the year, and hopefully we can repeat some more success.
Well, that would be good. We look forward to hearing about that. Good on you.
Thank you.
Josip Zilic, he's the technical director of the football program. And when I say football, the soccer program at St. Joseph's College there in Newtown. Fantastic stuff coming out of that school. We'll be back after this very short break to pretty much wind up tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. And that, folks, pretty much winds things up for tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. A very good comment I must bring up in the chat section, and by Joe Ormino, who's actually the CEO of the Gordon, our major sponsor. And first aid is such an important thing to know. First aid, CPR as well. By the way, I'm due for my CPR refresher course. But everyone should, anyone who's a parent, anyone who's a coach, a sports administrator, official, player, regardless, you just don't know when you're going to need it. So the Gordon does offer short courses in first aid and CPR refreshers as well. So make sure to give them a buzz, get in touch with them, and I'm sure there's quite a fair few different courses and course dates as well. So if you're busy for one, you'll find one that does suit you. But after tonight's episode, thank you so much for being a part of Geelong Region Soccer Show each week on a Monday night. We look forward to having your company again next week, same time. And in the meantime, do stay abreast of what is going on by tuning into our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much everything. Until next week, folks, good night. And once again, thank you for being a part of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Bye-bye.